Hello and welcome to the latest episode of A Discussion. I am once again joined by Anton, and we're here to discuss, as always, all the latest Burton Albion news in the last 7 days. Anton, how are you?
Good evening, mate. I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing okay, thanks, and in a very good mood with a special thanks to a win on Saturday. And I mean, it's pretty, we spoke about it before the game last week, and it's pretty unbelievable what we've managed to do, really. I don't think anyone, including ourselves at times, kind of saw that result coming. But like we said, we perform best under pressure. Not no sorry, when we're not under pressure, when we're the underdogs, the opponents, meant to win, they're meant to come and smash us, really. And we outplayed them, we outperformed them. We had the better chances. We took possibly the best chance of the game, in the last minute. Worked all throughout the 90. What a win, Anton.
Yeah, I think it was important. We said last week, didn't we? It was a kind of a free hit game. All the pressure was on top of the league hull. Coming away to bottom of the league, Burton Albion obviously stuck at the bottom of the league, struggling and fighting for survival. Nine new signings can work one of two ways. They either don't gel together and it takes a while to get going, or they click all straight away. And so be it. But obviously, we drip fed the signings in. We played without any pressure. All the pressure was on them, and their main guys didn't really get a look in. Honeyman didn't even really notice him in the game. Malik Wilkes didn't really have a shot of any notice. Obviously, Garrett in goals had nothing to do at all, pretty much, apart from a bit of mopping up. But that was the key thing that I think we've talked about. What Jimmy will bring. The amount of shots we have on our goal will reduce. So obviously, in time, those goals conceded will drop down as well. So if we can just turn our shots onto target a bit more, then the 1-0s might even turn to 2-0s. But I'll take the 1-0s every day of the week.
Take the 1-0 win. And you mentioned defensively there. We look. I mean, I don't even think Hull managed a shot on target in the game. So that's a huge achievement. And with the signings had an incredible impact defensively. I mean, obviously Hayden Carter, we kind of played against Gillingham, and he looked good. Then he looked really good again. John Brayford, ever present, putting a really solid display at the back. Defensively we looked sound, and obviously Tom Hamer at right back, Josh Earl at left back. I mean, two of the best fullback performances I think I've seen this season. Maybe only rivaled by Oxford's, ours, but defensively they're completely untouchable. Josh Earl got forward at times as well. Hamer with the long throw that, we got a glimpse of what we were to see, and they look like really good additions. And obviously Claire kind of sitting in maybe a bit more defensive role in midfield. He put in some really good tackles, and as a unit defensively, we looked incredible.
Yeah, I think I touched on it before. Obviously, having an improved back four with more legs in there, there's obviously will benefit. But you touched on obviously Sean Clare playing in that role. I thought the three in midfield were probably key to our performances more than anything. I talked about us playing 15 to 20 yards further up the pitch, starting from the defence, starting from the front, sorry. Obviously, in turn, and then midfield then shuffles up, so does the defence. And obviously, then the space in between those two areas reduces, and we were stopping the ball at source. As you said, the energy of Clare in there and Edwards certainly I thought were absolutely magnificent. Obviously, even Broom was doing his defensive work when we were out of possession. So that takes the kind of pressure and the number of attacks or the amount of possession that Hull had out of the equation. Obviously, in time that will lead to less obviously shots on target or noticeable chances. As you touched on, there was no shots on target. And I think everything was pretty much outside the box. The taking the pressure off the defence anyway, but also having those probably better legs in there as such with the energy because it was a bit more youthful. Then obviously that backline performance was fantastic, and another clean sheet, the second in 3 games for Jimmy.
Yeah, and as you say, it's important, and as we say, it's Hull. They come with high expectations, and we really crowd them. And I think you kind of started to allude to it. We're really good at stopping the attack at source. I think You know, you mentioned Ryan Broom, you know, Lucas Akins was up there, you know, and the whole attack was just, you know, every single time their back four or, you know, their defense had the ball, it was a really high aggressive press, and we forced them long. And with, you know, when you've got with the new additions and, you know, we've got Hayden Carter, Josh Earl, Tom Hamer, all, you know, they're big lads, you know, they're going to win a lot of balls in the air. Brayford's not as tall, but somehow manages to win almost everything that comes his way. And we executed the plan perfectly, really, which was, you know, we stopped them at source. We don't let them play through the midfield. When they did as well, you know, Claire and Edwards were there. It was really good, you know, some really good challenges. And yeah, we did an incredible job on them, really. And, you know, cutting the ball at source. And I think that was one of the most important things to our win, was that really almost like front four of ours pressing non-stop for the whole game, you know, their defense, and really
Yeah,
stopped them.
definitely. We led from the front, and you know that's how Jimmy plays. That's how Jimmy played going back the years when he was here before. He presses from the front, and he expects everybody to work together. And I think that was the massive difference. Certainly, I've seen in the last 3 weeks. Before then, there was a lot of individual good performances, and I think that's all well and good. But unless you play well as a team and the team performs well together, then it kind of means nothing. You've got to do everything you do in units, and we pressed as a team. We didn't just press the odd player; we pressed up as a team. If one person goes for the press, that's not really good enough, is it? Because otherwise, if one person goes for the press, he's out of position, and then there's probably then another pass easily to go on. But if he presses, and then the man behind him presses, and then next door to him presses, there is no easy way out. And obviously, that's where the game of chess comes in. And Jimmy would have drilled that into training, certainly in the last 5-6 weeks. Patterns of play, not just in possession, but out of possession as well. So we'll stop teams playing from between the lines. And I say again, we just look more organised, a great team performance, and hopefully more to come.
And the goal that we scored, Anta, I think, and you know, you might want to contradict what I'm going to say, but for me, I was sat there with 85 minutes on the clock going, if we can take a 0-0 here, this will be a really good result, a really positive, you know, result for us as a team, as a club. Position-wise in the league table, it would have helped us out a bit. You know, it wasn't the ideal result, but I would have taken a 0-0. And then up pops Josh Parker with an incredible pass. You know, he kind of made himself up for a miss early, which I think we all kind of thought was destined to go in. But no, he made up for it, and it was I think, a typical Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank Burton Albion goal. You know, we went on until the end, kept on pushing them, and I think for most of the game, as we've said, we looked like the favourites to score. We missed what maybe some of us thought was our big chance, but we kept going. And, you know, a really nice pass from Parker, and, you know, into the substitute, Johnny Smith, and watching the highlights of him coming, that run from deep, is almost on the halfway line, sprints, gets the better of their fullback, a really calm finish, and it was brilliant, a brilliant goal, really.
For a young guy on his debut, when he came on, he looked really, really good. And he said the calmness of the finish and the pretty much the last phases of the game, absolutely fantastic. You know that's kind of going to make the result. But with the Burton Albion team, and certainly a Jimmy team, you never ever give up. The amount of late goals we've scored over the past years are certainly meaningful as well. You never say never with Burton Albion, but I actually probably celebrated more than what I thought Parker should have scored than I did the actual goal. I was out on my feet then, and I think when the goal actually came, it was more of a sudden shock. It was like, we've won a game, and I didn't really know what to do. And I think a lot of people would have, well, we're beaten top of the league. Oh, okay, we've scored. And we've beaten top of the league. Oh, what do we do? Let's run around the room. But no, you said it. Parker made that miss, but I thought he was really, really intelligent. I think on the face of it, everyone thought he was a striker. He hasn't scored many goals, but he looks, in the 2 appearances he's made, he looks really intelligent. Obviously, his goal scoring record from the miss, you can see, isn't great. And I don't think he's going to score lots and lots of goals, but his intelligence on the football pitch is superb. That pass he put in was pin perfect. He's made a couple of little turns and little touches and lays off to in other phases of the game. So I think he's a really clever addition to the squad.
And do you see him as a kind of grown into a really key role for us at the moment? Because, in the wings, we're not, especially whilst Hemmings is injured and Lucas is kind of forced further up the pitch. Do you see Parker being a key player for us? Because, like you said, he's looked good when he's come on. Obviously, in a previous game against Ipswich, he had a chance late on as well, came off on the bench on the left wing, which looks like where Jimmy wants to kind of deploy him. And do you think he can be a key player for us? Because he certainly looks like one in his performances so far to me.
Yeah, I think I've touched on it before. Not just loan signings, but new signings you bring into the club, but certainly at this stage, they've got to improve your starting 11 and not just going to sit on the bench and improve the squad. So I think Jimmy's brought him into play. Obviously, we've seen Vernon go out. We've seen Lawless go out. So there's kind of a spot on that left-hand side of midfield up for grabs. Obviously, Colin Daniel was absent again, maybe injury or COVID-related, not recovered, I don't know. But, I think that left-hand side is certainly up for grabs, and, he's certainly putting the work in. Obviously, with Kane injured, not knowing how bad his injury is, you would expect Lucas to go up top now, which obviously will Johnny Smith, you would expect them to slot in on the right side of midfield, or Parker to swap. But no, he's a different kind of player to the Vernon or the Lawless, where they go on a mazy run and dribble past defenders. He looks like he'll play the 1-2s and he'll make those clever little passes. I think that's more important. Ryan Broom again, he actually play the little passes around the corner into his feet, in and out really quick, similar to Martin Duffy. I think we alluded that to before, similar kind of player. So I think Parker will be more about bringing other people into play than actually getting goals himself.
Yeah, and you said there, Anton, about players that we're bringing in, whether it be loan or permanent, have to improve our starting 11. And I think you might know where this is going. We spoke last week, as we have many weeks before, about we are currently sat with arguably 3 goalkeepers who all could start. And we were only left with more questions after the team selection, because O'Hara's nowhere to be found. Barnes was on the bench with Garrett starting it, but then when we got to see the team of that Blackpool game that got postponed, and we'll kind of touch on that in a moment, O'Hara was on the bench, and it was all kind of, it just has led to more questions. And what do you reckon?
I honestly don't know. It's for someone that plays poker and games and likes the kind of mental side of it, I'm actually stuck at the minute to work out where we're going with the goalkeepers. I think Garrett's, as I said before, I'm not Garrett's biggest fan. I don't think he's the best goalkeeper we've got on the books, but we brought a goalkeeper in on loan after we've already got 2 on the books. So for me, that goalkeeper had to be better than what we've already got. But Garrett has played the last 2 Jimmy's games, so he probably deserved another chance. O'Hara's obviously on a 2-year contract, so obviously he's got time on his contract to obviously improve. So maybe Jimmy has kind of brought him in to give him a kick up the backside to say, look, I've brought another goalkeeper in. I still think you're capable, but at the minute, taking you out the firing line, you need to improve. Or did he try and get rid of one before the window shut? I don't know. Obviously, the problem you've got at the minute, you've got those 3 plus Callum Hawkins, and there's nowhere for him to go. Obviously, with the conference kind of stop-starting, and some teams playing and some teams not, and then lower than that kind of cancelled at the moment, or postponed, or on hold, I should say. There isn't really a need for 4 goalkeepers in the squad. So at the minute, I think it's Ben Garrett's shirt. He's not made a mistake since Jimmy's been there. We've kept 2 clean sheets in 3 games. And he conceded 1 goal. So, you've got to kind of have a level consistency, and Jimmy's got to kind of show, look, if you play well, then the shirt's yours. You've got to wait for your chance to get in that lineup otherwise. So, I'm not big Garrett's biggest fan. If I was picking a starting 11, he wouldn't be in my 11. But at the minute, I think it's the only fairest thing to do. So it's interesting what he'll do with the goalkeepers.
And I think we've kind of, spoke about it before on this kind of ongoing topic that Ben Garrett is almost like a case of Jimmy wants to, maybe if we look into it a bit deeper, we want to push whoever is playing in goal to be at their best. And, you'd hope that, and you'd think that, that's how the mentality would be anyway. But, when you've got, as you kind of mentioned with two goalkeepers who could come and start for us, one on the bench, one on the reserves. And, if you make a mistake, that you probably know what's coming, which will be, and it just kind of works as I mean, I'm probably as lost as you are, but it's a kind of more mentality thing, and it's all about, and those goalkeepers who aren't playing will want to be, they'll be in theory working as hard as they can in their game to be playing and to get onto the team sheet, to get onto, to be the first choice. And yeah, I don't I don't really know, but that would be
It's
my
healthy competition, isn't it? I know goalkeepers are unique position. There's only one position that can start in a game of football, and the other 11 spots out there, you can either play. You're a fullback. You've got two choices to play left or right. You're a centre half. You're likely to be playing one of the two positions, etc., etc. In goals, you're in goals, and that's it. But I think also in training, for example, goalkeepers obviously tend to train as a pack on their own to start majority of the time, unless they're doing obviously match kind of situations. So it's also important to get a group together that works well together, to obviously to push themselves and push each other to make the best they can. And the kind of a goalkeepers union, I know you in the past you've played obviously goals, but you've not been the only goalkeeper in the squad, have you? So it will spur you on as well to, right, I've got this guy here who also wants to play in goals, but in actual fact, I want the gloves. He's got to get better than me. So, but on the same token, you've got to work together, because unless he pushes you, you ain't going to improve, are you?
exactly, yeah. That would be my interpretation, I think.
I'll expect a few more words than that, but
yeah, that would be my kind of stab at it. And I mean, only time will tell, I guess.
you go to an England camp, for example. They don't just pick two goalkeepers, one to sit on the bench and one to start, do they? They pick one for a reserve in case one gets injured, but then there's also a fourth one. So there's like four in the squad. Again, that's to train in the pack, get them experience. So I think that's really, really important.
Yeah, and as I mentioned, we got a sneak peek of the team lineup for the game at Blackpool. But before that, we got a bit of surprise transfer news from I don't really know where. I mean, you might have better sources than me, Anton, but I didn't see this one coming at all. And all of a sudden, out pops Michael Mancienne, 33-year-old centre-back, free agent, signed. What do you reckon?
Yeah, again, it's another squad member. It's another player in a position that we've already got players in there for. Jimmy touched on it in these match interview beforehand. Obviously, the late interest in Lucas and Johnny Brayford to go to Mansfield, and he kind of has come out and said, "Look, we rejected them. The two of them have got to kind of knuckle down and be in it now to the end." But Johnny Brayford ended up playing left side of the centre half position, which obviously isn't his natural position. Michael Mancienne was on loan at Wolves from Chelsea, and that year that Wolves went up, not last time, obviously the time before, he was the Championship Player of the season, and everybody was raving about him. He was absolutely quality, and he was going to be the next big thing. Obviously, his career's kind of fluctuated a little bit and probably not kind of gone in the high pecking order of where it should have done, but he's one hell of a talent. I think he's 33, is he? 34? So he's experienced. Obviously, he still looks fit. He's got to prove his fitness, but we've got him on a short-term contract. Again, it's competition for places. If the budget stretches to it, then all well and good and great. Competition for places is good. But I think with the high energy football we're going to play and pressing we're going to play, I think we will need a bigger squad than we had before, because the same players can't do it week in, week out. You saw in the 11 that were named on Tuesday, there were 3 changes to the side and then also changes to the bench. So there was rotations going to have to happen, because it's one hell of a push to play that high tempo football for week on, week out. So there's obviously a lot of games to fit in a short space of time.
Yeah, and I think you're probably along the right lines when you talk about, the left-sided centre-back spot. And I think there was a few times on Saturday against Hull when John Brayford received the ball and kind of was forced onto his left, and he doesn't, it's his weaker foot, and it kind of, maybe not as comfortable. And we kind of gave the ball away cheaply a few times where it's just, the basics of Garrett plays it out to Brayford, who's shown onto his left foot by the Hull striker who's pressing from the middle. And it was kind of a slightly panicked clearance up to Parker most of the time, which, we would something that we'll be looking to cut out, because the longer we keep the ball, the better, really. Because if we have the ball, they don't have it. And
exactly, that's very wise words. If you've got possession of the football and it's down in the opponent's half, it takes a hell of a lot longer for them to score, and it's a hell of a lot harder. So if you keep possession of that football, the opposition's less likely to score.
Yeah, and we kept the ball well on Saturday as well. And, we kind of so many positives to take. As we won't get around to mentioning them all, but it was just, as we've said, an incredible team performance and a good addition to add into the squad for the upcoming game away at Northampton, which maybe for me, looking at the games we've played so far and the games that we've got to come, this is our biggest game of the season so far, and probably will be for the rest of the season. It's the definition of a relegation 6-pointer. We've got, I think they're 5 points ahead of us at the minute, Northampton. Obviously, we've missed out a few games recently, so we're kind of, we've actually dropped behind the teams that are above us, which, I mean, you'd rather have points on the board than be catching up, but we know our targets at least. We know what we've got to aim for, which, a win against Northampton would see us, I think, 4 points if results kind of, go our way on Saturday. And it's going to be a difficult game. Northampton parted company with Keith Cole after they lost, I think it was 1-0 to Wigan not too long ago. So whether they're going to have a manager or not is going to probably change the way that the game plays. But first of all, Anton, how big a game is this for us?
As you say, it's a big 6-pointer in a relegation battle. I think 6 of the bottom 8 teams play each other this weekend. So not just our fixture, but obviously in and around us is quite crucial. So hoping for some draws, somewhere. But just taking it back to probably 3-4 weeks ago, everyone was saying what a position we're in. We're bottom of the league. We've played about 4 games more than the teams in and around us. So, the Jimmy's task is unbelievable. But you actually look at it now with our few weeks off because of the COVID situation, everybody's now caught up with a number of games and we're actually no further behind. So, as I said before, points on the board are more important than games in hand, because games in hand don't automatically mean you're going to get more points. So, we're talking about positives in the previous conversation. That's a massive positive, and that's a massive kind of mental shift as well. You come into Saturday's game, obviously Northampton on an awful run of form. The party company with Keith Curl yesterday, or Tuesday, I should say. It was really weird that them and Bristol Rovers, sat the manager within about a minute of each other. About 4:30 yesterday, so they're very strange. But why change your manager a week after the transfer window's shut? That manager cannot come in and change anything. He's got to work with the players he's got. So I think it's really really rocky times for those kind of teams. And we've done our business early. We made that change. We've brought in 10 players into the squad. They've played a few games now. We've had 2 good results out of 3 performances. We've had 3 good performances. So everything for us is on a positive incline, whereas those teams are obviously on a downward slope. So I would expect the momentum should be with us. Obviously, we were nice to have played the game against Blackpool on Tuesday. It was kind of a free hit after the unexpected win to most against Hull. So Saturday for me is, I'd say it's a must-win game. Again, it's away from home. Don't lose. Don't let the opposition get away from you. But it's a really good opportunity, hopefully, for another 3 points on the board But I think a clean sheet again would be really, really good. It means we don't lose the game, but also gives and breeds confidence that we can keep teams out.
I think you're pretty spot on there with saying that we just don't need to lose this game, because at the end of the day, if we lose, that sees that gap that we've closed with a great win against Gillingham and a great win against Hull. That sees that gap that we've closed kind of start to open up a bit again, and you kind of, the task gets that little bit harder. A draw would not be a bad result. Wouldn't be.
No, but on the same principle, we can't go into the game going, let's go for the draw. We've got to still go out and play our game like we did against Hull, grind the result out, wait for a chance and an opportunity, and try and get that goal and go 1-0 up as early in the game as we can. So it's kind of like, ensure we don't lose, but let's not just sit back and kind of wait for it to happen. Let's go out and attack, and obviously again press high, but not go to the game going for a draw. Let's go out to win. I say a draw is a minimum.
Yeah, and depending on, we don't know quite yet whether Northampton are going to have announced a manager, or whether they're going to be managed by, I believe that they announced it would be their under-18 coaches, taking control as the caretaker for now, whilst they look for a new manager. And it really could be a chance for us to go out there and make a statement. Another one we may want against Hull. And, if we can go out there and, beat possibly, we know from first-hand experience how difficult it is to play as a, quote unquote managerless team, when, you're kind of in between that phase of, you've got someone as caretaker, but you don't quite know if they're going to get the permanent job. We obviously, when we lost 5-1 to Oxford, we were in that exact scenario. And we mentioned at the time, we looked completely lost as a team. And, you really need to make the most of it. If, Northampton are going to look like that, you've got to go out there and, score and, win the game if we can. But
it can work in two ways. Sometimes when a manager gets sacked, if the players weren't supportive of him, they might actually go out and play with more freedom and they actually might get a better result. However, if they were really supportive of the manager, again, when we played Oxford, it might all come crashing down and they could fall apart. So it could go one or two ways. Well, they've got to fight for their careers. They're fighting to stay in the league as much as we are now. So it could either really propel them and they could see a better performance from them, or say it could go the other way as well. So it's a really interesting game. It was interesting before, but obviously now that the manager's gone, it's certainly interesting times.
Yeah, and you mentioned about getting a clean sheet as well, more for for confidence, and it'll be a really important thing for us. And it's almost, if there's going to be a team in the league that someone keeps a clean sheet against, I think it's going to be Northampton. They've only scored 20 this season in the league. They've scored once in their last 5, which is a really, dismal run offensively. Obviously, 3 of those came against us in the reverse fixture, where we almost saw why they were struggling to score, Anton, because the goals were very kind of, scrappy isn't the right word, because they really outplayed us on the day, Northampton, but it was direct, extremely direct. And at the time, whoever we had, they had that big striker up front, and we couldn't really get near him for the entire game. And now we've got a new kind of, almost new shape, reformed back line. Do you reckon though? It's going to be interesting, as you said, an interesting game, because we don't know how they're going to set up tactically. So whether they might come out and turn into prime Barcelona and play some, wonderful tiki-taka around us, or they could stick to maybe what they were kind of trying to do under Keith Curle and go direct and, not be afraid to play the long ball up to the striker. It's hard to predict.
You would expect with the squad that they've got and the players they've got, it's set up to play that direct football. As we said, the caretaker manager has little time to kind of focus on a different way of playing. He certainly hasn't had a chance to bring anybody in. So you would expect the same kind of football you would expect. The other thing about Jimmy that he's done he's actually he's reduced the age of the squad. But he's also made the squad bigger as well in terms of height. You know, you look at the defenders that have started the last 2 games. I don't think there's been a defender less than 6 foot now. But it's not just a defence. You know, you look at Josh Parker; he's not a small lad. Sean Clare's not small. You know, the height of the team's obviously increased, so that's only going to benefit and help going forward. So, you know, Jimmy's been quite shrewd and clever with his signings, not just with ability on the ball, but also physically as well. So, I think, you know, we saw at Gillingham we could hack the more direct approach, but again, as we keep saying, you know, cutting the ball out at source is the most important thing. And if a team that goes direct, you can do that. They haven't got any other option. So, you know, I'm very positive that we'll get a good result on Saturday.
So am I, and very hopeful as well. That, you know, we can kind of. It is, yeah. You know, we a result would be huge for us. Like we said, whether a draw or a win, it would really kind of. It would see that this momentum, this kind of newfound momentum that we've picked up with Jimmy, kind of, you know, carry on, and the longer that we can keep dragging that out for, the better, really. You know, as we've said, a win at Gillingham, a good result, a good performance, not quite the result against Ipswich, and then an incredible win against Hull. And, you know, the longer we can kind of keep bringing that kind of energy for, the better. And for our sake, I hope it's for the rest of the season.
Yeah, you know, you look back from 6 weeks ago, as I said on my podcast kind of earlier this week, which is brewed in 1950, if anyone wants to listen, you know, the whole atmosphere and positivity from within the football club has changed completely. The atmosphere, obviously, on social media has changed dramatically. I will imagine if fans were allowed to see each other and have a conversation in the pub or obviously meeting out or whatever, again, their attitude would be completely different. But the mindset of people from 6 weeks ago to now is completely, utterly at polar opposites. We were a team bottom of the league, low on confidence, really struggled to have any kind of direction of where we were going. We've now got a new management team, pretty much an entire new squad. We've got a new way of playing. We've got performances on the pitch that are positive, which are now also getting to results on the pitch being positive. Those games, again, as I say, the teams look like they were got 4 games in hand over us and already above us. They've all kind of disappeared, and we're still no further behind. Obviously, with those results, we've closed the gap slightly. So, you know, we're in a massive beneficial place to go out and get survival. Alex Ferguson used to say, I think I've said this before, you know, the league isn't won before Christmas. The league's won kind of February, March, April time. That's when, if you can get momentum and go on a run, that's the crucial time when points will be picked up. So you kind of think of it the other way and you go, right, well, you don't get relegated before Christmas. As long as you can stay in and around the pack, yeah, okay, we pick points up, but not many. But, you know, we're hitting form and gaining momentum and getting results at the right time. And we're not just getting results from bad performances either and being lucky. We're starting now to play well, which is getting us good results, and that only means a good thing. So we're only gaining confidence. We've got a new team and gelling together, so everything should only improve more rather than go a step back. So really, really positive, and you know, you can feel that confidence breathing from within the club, and you can certainly see it on social media as well. You know, even talking to you, you know, that'd be funny. When we first started doing these, you were really down and out about football, and probably me as well. We were kind of like, well, it's burnt Alvin, try and put a positive spin on it. But, you know, we're both coming in with smiles on our faces and actually wanting to talk about football rather than being a chore again. You know, we're back. We know we can't go and watch a game, but we're actually excited to sit in front of a telly to watch a football club where I'm 200 yards away from the ground, you're a bit further. But, you know, even though it's on the telly, I'm still excited to watch again because it's Burton Albion and we're doing well. It's, you know, everybody must be exactly the same. There's more of an excitement and a buzz back.
Yeah, and you've hit pretty much the nail on the head there, Anton. I think the only thing that could bring a greater smile to your face would be a Jimmy 1-0 win on Saturday. Is that what you're going for? Is your, you know, is your score prediction, or are you mixing it up a bit this week?
I'm going to say 2-0 this week. I actually backed myself this week and I put a little bet on with the 1-0. So quid's up this week for a change. But I'll probably go 2-0 this week. Right yourself.
I'll go with the 1-0 then. I'll steal your thunder this week and take that. And, as you see, we'll both take clean sheets in what is an important game and one that we're very positive about getting a result in. Anton, thank you very much for joining me. And
As always,
we'll see you next week when we're hopefully reacting to a really crucial win for us.
Yep, fingers crossed. Stay safe.
Fingers crossed. See you later.